When it comes to picking a carry gun, some people will say capacity is most important, while others will say comfort is most important, and some will even say any gun is better than no gun. And today I'm going to try and help you navigate these murky waters, which is concealed carry in 2023. And I say murky waters just because when you walk into a gun shop, it may look something like this, except there's probably going to be even more than this, right? And so it can be really hard to say, well, where do I even start? And so that's my goal today, is to not tell everybody the best carry gun ever, but try to give you some things to look out so maybe you can then be informed to help you pick the perfect carry gun for you. Now, there's really only one criteria that we all agree on as far as the perfect carry gun, and it has to be reliable. So I'm not going to use that in my criteria looking at the perfect carry gun, but what I am going to use is 5 things specifically. And instead of going through all of these different guns and saying, okay, this one's good, this one's good, this one's not, whatever, we're going to kind of use an elimination bracket here. So as I go through each of the criteria, we'll be able to knock some of these off and then finally whittle it down to 1, 2, or 3 really good options that I believe are the perfect carry gun. But again, you can use this information to make your own judgment and what you think would be the perfect carry gun for you. Now let's talk about the first one, which is going to be the round itself. And some people will say any gun is better than no gun. I carry a 45 because shooting twice is just silly. So we have a Heritage revolver. All these guns have been safety checked too, by the way, right? Cool little 22. This gun was like, I don't know, 125 bucks. I mean, really cheap, pretty decent option. I had some shooting footage of it some point last year, and if you've probably heard this before if you're familiar with my channel. I broke the hard drive that contained the footage with this gun. But this is a 22 long rifle, and so anybody that says any gun is better than no gun is simply either being lazy, they're misinformed, or they don't really know anything about ballistics and self-defense situations. So yes, a 22 can kill you, absolutely, but it's not something you want to trust your life to as far as self-defense. So when it comes to any gun is better than no gun, I'm gonna say no to that, right? Ideally, you want to have something more than just a 22. Now, if this is all I have, yes, it is better technically, but we're going off the assumption that you have a choice here, and 22 is not your choice. So we're going to go ahead and get the 22 off the table. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is capacity, and this is a hot topic. You would think that, ideally just having more rounds is better, but some people look at it from, they were actually in a real self-defense shooting. So, and it took 1 or 2 rounds for them, or other people may have been in a situation where it took 10 or 15 rounds. This guy may say, what if you have multiple attackers, which is a real possibility, while this person says, well, most of the time it seems like it's only one person. So 3 to 7 yards, let's say, is the average self-defense situation. All right, if you have 1 attacker, okay, 2 attackers, 3 attackers, well, but just because you can put shots on a steel target or paper at the range with little to no pressure whatsoever does not mean that you can replicate that in the real world where stress is at an all-time high. And I can recognize that, right? And that's why I talk about training, and this is the year where I'm gonna put myself in some of these situations too, get some real training and see if I can do these things under stress as well as I can, just standing there, right? But regardless, all that aside, to me, capacity is an important thing because none of us are perfect and we can't predict the future, but we can prepare for something that may happen in the future. If we're in circa 2007 to 2000 and what, 14, 15, 16? Hell, maybe even all the way up to 17. Whenever the P365 came out, really, when I'm talking, and I'm talking about the micro carry guns. Really, I'm talking not really your subcompacts like your Glock 26 and the HK VP9 SK. I'm talking about the single stack 9mm market or 380 was 6, 7, maybe 8 rounds. That was it. And so I like to have more capacity. I think that in preparing for a situation like that, um, every single one of those rounds that comes out of that gun, you are accountable for. But I also want to account for multiple situations. Okay, so you have a gun like the Glock 42. This is a 6-round gun in 380. Could this save your life? Absolutely. One attacker, you know, fairly close? Sure. Is that how it's going to play out necessarily? Are you going to miss any shots? Hopefully not, but what happens if you do? I don't really want to trust my life to this gun right here. Now, if this is a backup, that's one thing, but as my primary carry gun, I'm going to say the Glock 42 is not the perfect carry gun in this situation. Well, what if we jump up to 9mm like this DB9 Gen 4? Well, this is 6 rounds as well. And even though it's a 9mm, 6 rounds, that's what you got. 6 plus 1 in the pipe, so 7 rounds. Yes, it could potentially save you, and it's going to do a better job most likely than the Glock 42, assuming you can get shots on target. This thing is not an easy gun to shoot, but up close, could save your life. But I'm not going to bet my life on just 7 rounds when I have other options that are the same size, just maybe a little heavier, but offer something way better as far as shootability and as far as capacity. I think the DB9, we're going to go ahead and kick this one out as well. Now, one of my favorite guns here is the LCP 380. When I say favorite, I'm talking about pocket guns because they actually updated this gun. It's got 10 rounds in the magazine, again, of 380. They updated the sights, so no longer is that just milled whatever sights where you can barely use them. This actually has a real set of sights with a tritium front insert for your night sight, blacked out rear. It's a decent option, but again, 380, yes, it's the minimum, but there's other options. I'm willing to take on a little bit more weight to be able to carry something that I feel more comfortable with for protecting myself. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the 380, the LCP Max, out at this point. And an oldie but goodie, the Walther PPS M2. This is one of those guns back in the day, man. This was it, dude. This is one of the best shooting carry guns, at least for that day. These things were fantastic, man. Great trigger, great set of sights, great feel in the hand, carries really well. But again, 6 rounds with a standard flush magazine. I'm gonna push this one out as well. It's just not enough capacity compared to some of these others on the table. If you really want to protect your fam, use a gun that never jams. And our revolver, the Smith & Wesson 10mm. So when it comes to the round itself for self-defense, this thing is a tank, and yes, I would trust it, but again, you have 6 rounds. Why do I want to do that? Let's say I have to reload, whatever. I don't want to have to do it with this, man. This is, I love this gun for certain situations, but for self-defense, I'm going to pass on the Smith & Wesson 10mm. Next thing we're going to talk about is how comfortable is the gun to carry. Now, again, just like everything else in this world and pretty much anything, this is a point of debate. And so how you're going to carry it and how comfortable it is to carry, I believe, is an important thing, because if you are not going to carry that gun because you don't like the holster, you don't like the setup, you think the gun is too big, etc., 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 then there's no point of you having that gun, right? The whole point is to have it on you as much as humanly possible to prepare for those situations that are unforeseen, right? So comfort, I believe, is a big thing, and I believe that is also a big reason why people will leave certain guns at home. So let's eliminate some of these guns right off the rip. Something like the M&P Competitor, although a fantastic shooter and a beautiful gun, by the way, missing an optic, check out that video, why you should wear eye protection. But fantastic gun otherwise, but just way too big, way too heavy for me personally. Now, some people may say, oh man, I'm able to carry a 3-pound 1911 with 16 extra mags. Well, I'm not, it's just not comfortable for me to do that. My back starts hurting and I'm like, dude, is this really worth it? And I think most people would look at this and be like, well, maybe outside the waistband, but if you're talking about concealed carry, nah, I'm gonna get the competitor out of here. We can pretty much eliminate the P320 Spectra Comp, one of my best shooting guns on the planet. If it came down to just shootability, this would be on my hip. But again, it's just a little bit too much for me as far as concealed carry goes. All right, the M&P Metal is one that I carry outside the waistband, but again, I don't think it's one of the best options for concealed carry. I just think I think most people would get this gun and they'd be like, this is just a little bit too much for me. You're talking about over 2 pounds loaded up, plus a holster, whatever. It's just a little bit too much. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this one out as well. Eliminating another Smith & Wesson. This is the 10mm Smith & Wesson, which is 15 rounds, but look, I got a Hellcat Pro on your right, which is 15 rounds and 9, granted, but still a much smaller, slimmer, lighter option, 15 rounds. I think I'm gonna get rid of the 10mm Smith & Wesson. Great gun, right? Great for defense and bear country outside the waistband, but for concealed carry, this one's gotta go. All right, so what we're left with is a pretty good selection of guns. Now let's work through these, and the next criteria we're gonna cover is shootability. So I wanted to do shootability after we got most of the full-size, bigger guns off of the table because, quite frankly, all of those guns shoot really well. Now we wanna look at how do the mid to micro or compact or single stack nines or however you want to label these guns, we want to look at the best shooter here. And one I'm going to go ahead and get off the table right now is the Glock 43X. I suck with this gun. I do not trust myself with this gun to put shots on target, and that's just me. Some people carry this gun every day and they love it. Just for me, I'm not a huge fan of it. It does nothing better than some of these other guns right here on the table. Plus, if we go back to concealability and comfort, I got, for example, a Shield Plus on the right and a Glock 43X on the left. Well, they're both 10 rounds, 10 plus 1, and you'll notice how much longer the Glock 43X is. So why does that matter? Well, that's what you're trying to conceal is the grip of the gun. So if you're a smaller frame person, depending on the clothing type you're wearing, if you're wearing, an inside the waistband holster, this could possibly be too much and it could print all over the place to you. So these dimensions inside the waistband can make a huge difference. Miss Techshot, she can't carry something like this. The Shield Plus, she can almost get away with. So that's just one of those things, man. The Glock 43X does nothing better than anything else on this table when it comes to shooting. I'm gonna take this one out. If the Glock 43X didn't make you mad, well, this one surely will. This is the Hellcat Pro. I shoot this gun better than I thought, man, because the original Hellcat, I was not super impressed with it, honestly. The more time I spent with it, I was just like, this just ain't me. It just ain't for me. And the Hellcat Pro, although better, I'm not a huge fan of the way this gun shoots. And sometimes that's why it's a good idea to get multiple guns in your hand if you can, go to a range that'll let you rent them, and you shoot them. You take the time, you see which one fits you well, because sometimes you'll find what works for me may not work for you. Me and this gun, although I think it's one of the best carry guns out there, I really do, I just don't vibe with it that well. Another one I'm going to go ahead and get rid of is the Shadow Systems CR920. This is a relatively new gun to me, and I thought this thing was going to be one of the best shooting carry guns I ever had. I just kind of felt very inconsistent with it, and it may just be a timing thing, but for me, I'm going to go ahead and take this one off the table because I know there's guns that are left that I shoot way better with. The next one we're going to talk about is really subjective. And so these are the ones that I am least willing to pull out of the safe and carry. First one up is the CZ P10C. And for no other reason than just it's a little bit too big for me personally. I love the way this gun shoots. It has been uber reliable, fantastic gun. I really wish CZ would do a single stack or just a 10 or a 12 round version of this, because I can almost promise you it would be in my top 5. It would replace something, because man, just a fantastic gun, dude. CZ impresses the hell out of me. 15 rounds in the mag, fantastic shooter. I just think there's some better carry options here that are more comfortable, and typically I'm gonna reach for those first before I reach for this one. Another one that I really wish HK would come out with some kind of single stack version, 10 or 12 round version of the HK VP9 SK. I absolutely love the VP9 series of guns. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at the full-size VP9 and been like, dude, I have to get another one of those. I have to. And although they are expensive, HK is amongst one of my favorite brands of firearms, because what they make is legit beautiful pieces of hardware that can legitimately save your life. I don't mind the magazine release and how it's a little bit different. It's right here instead of a button. I can get used to all of that. This gun shoots incredibly well, and I get excited when I take it to the range. It's just for what it is, which is a 10 round chunky monkey type of gun. Let me see if I can line those up better. Look, you got the P320 Spectra Comp on the right, which is 12 rounds, and the VP9 SK on the left, which is 10. It just doesn't make any sense for me to grab this gun when I have one right next to it that's as good of a shooter, but lighter and more convenient to carry. The HK VP9. Come on, HK. Give us a single stack version of this gun, and I promise you, just like with the CZ, it will be in my rotation for sure. Now, if your head isn't spinning at this point, it probably will now. The Glock 19. People think I hate Glock, and yes, I do give them a hard time because I think their lack of innovation is clear. I think they kind of use their name as a way to sell guns, and they come out with a new one and there's really nothing that different, and it's like the lack of innovation drives me nuts with a company with engineers that are so freaking smart and talented, although it just seems like, yeah, well, we'll add slide serrations, or we'll take finger grooves off, or whatever, man. I would love to see something more from them. I've heard rumors of a rifle or something coming out from them, which you can bet your ass I will get one. And I really respect these guys. I really do. I know I give them a hard time, but I do not reach for this gun that often at all, if at all. I don't think I've carried this gun in a while. While being 8 months to about a year, probably. I just don't reach for it that often. It's a great all-around good sized gun. I just think there's better options for concealed carry. Getting rid of another Smith & Wesson, basically for all of the reasons I just talked about the VP9 SK. Why am I going to carry this 12 round chunky monkey when I have, again, Spectra Comp, about the same size, a little bit lighter, a little bit thinner? It doesn't do much for me anymore. It's still got the hinged trigger, which is a great update in the M2.0 series, but compared to the new Shield Plus and the new triggers, this is light years better than what this is, in my opinion. Again, this is one that I don't reach for at all, really, anymore. And the Glock 26. Again, I don't reach for it. It's a 10 round gun. It's chunky. It's not that heavy, honestly, but when it comes to shooting and putting shots on target, this is where I kind of struggle with this gun. I can do it. I can shoot this gun actually fairly well. I'm just more comfortable with a couple of the other options that are on the table. And one of those is not the Smith & Wesson Performance Center. Now, I think a big downfall with this gun is the optic I'm running on it. Crimson Trace, dude, I like a lot of their stuff, but I am not a fan of their micro red dots. Not a fan at all. That's not to say that this thing isn't decent, but I believe just with my eyes and the way I see this gun, if I had a Holosun or something like that on here, this would be a much better setup. So there's kind of a getting back to the drawing board type of thing with this gun. I love the Shield Plus, and I love this gun. There's so many great features about it. I just haven't been reaching for it that often because of this optic. So a 407K might be in my future for this one, and we're going to revisit this at some point here in the next few months and give this thing a fair shake. I just really hate this optic, which is why it stays in the safe most of the time. By the way, don't get the wrong impression. I do not condone, I really actually hate this style of holster. I just wanted to use it as an example when it comes to concealed carry. The way you carry a gun can make a huge difference whether you're going to carry it or not. A good holster and a good gun belt is much needed. Like the Shield Plus innate holster. This setup right here is amongst one of the best, a Core Essentials gun belt, an actual gun belt that's going to hold up the weight of a firearm. These types of things are super important to picking the perfect carry gun. I've talked about these things a lot. This is the holster I like because look how minimal this thing is. It doesn't cause me to sweat. This material is really fantastic when it comes to that. The lockup is solid, so no matter if I'm on a motorcycle or if I'm in my truck or wherever I am, I know my gun is securely locked into place, but I'm able to get to it super quick as well. The clip is very strong. They offer a tuckable version. Don't overlook a good holster and a good gun belt that will contribute to a better carry experience. Now we're left with 4 guns. And it's really no coincidence that I have 2 SIGs and 2 Smith & Wessons on the table. And this is what I'm talking about in the last thing, how the guns actually fit you. And this is different for everybody. I just resonate with Smith & Wesson and Sig Sauer better than any other gun out there. They fit my hands well. They're a very natural gun for me to draw out of the holster and get my sights aligned on target very quickly. And these are things that you will just have to kind of experiment for yourself. But for me, Sig and Smith & Wesson have that really natural point of aim. And if you don't think that's important, again, think about a self-defense situation, how quickly these things can happen. So it's definitely no coincidence. The brands that we have here on the table, I am very fond of them, and there's no real secret to that unless you're new to my channel. But regardless, which one of these is the best or perfect carry gun in my opinion? Well, similar to the Crimson Trace red dot on the Shield Plus Performance Center, the Romeo Zero Elite on the P365 XL Macro, I'm in the same boat. I know I can shoot the P365 really well, but I don't reach for this gun nearly as often because of this dot. So again, this is something I just have to replace them. Hey, they cost money. It is what it is. So I got to get that thing replaced because this is going to be such a much better option. This one and the Performance Center Shield Plus are just fantastic. Don't get the wrong impression. But with this optic and this setup, I don't trust that I would be able to effectively put shots on target as well as I should be able to, and I know I can because of those dots. I hate to blame something like that, but because they don't really co-witness that well with my iron sights, it's hard for me to justify carrying this when I have guns that I know I can get better shot placement with. So 17 round gun, that's as thin as any micro carry gun out there, super impressive. I just don't reach for it that often. And so these 3 right here, the Smith & Wesson Equalizer, I've had it in this crossbreed holster the whole time, but let you get a look at that. It is just, this is the best shooting carry gun, in my opinion, right now. Even a little bit better, I think, than the Shield Plus. It is just really on another level. I don't like this grip safety. I really am not a fan. I think it's unnecessary, but at the same time, it offers so many great features, and man, is it a fantastic shooter. Uses the Shield Plus magazine, super comfortable grip. Really all I'm waiting on right now is Tolster to come out with a holster, send me one so I can start carrying that thing more often. I am really fond of the Equalizer, way more so than what I was of the M&P EZ. The P365 Spectra Comp is in a league of its own, man. It's got great capacity. It's got a fantastic trigger, awesome set of sights on there that are night sights as well. And I shoot this thing incredibly well. But the one I reach for most of the time still is the Shield Plus in a Tolster holster with a Core Essentials gun belt on. That is my perfect carry gun. We talked about a lot, man, and a lot of this is just simply my opinion. But whatever yours is, whatever justification or whatever method you use for picking out your perfect carry gun, or maybe you haven't found the perfect carry gun yet, I'd love to hear those things down below. What kind of process do you go through to eliminate certain guns from other ones? What stands out to you? What features do you like better on this said gun versus this one? Love to hear those things down below. Big thanks to you guys. If you want to support what I do, you can do that right here. Join the channel. I'll leave a link in the description, or you can join me on Patreon as well. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down. Misses. That penis target is just swinging away. Let's get the competitor and try that one.